Welcome to the Employee to Entrepreneur channel. Please subscribe so every week you get to hear from amazing guests that share their stories and inspiration and motivation to help them in their journey, and hopefully it will inspire you as well in your transition from employee to entrepreneur. Hey everybody, welcome to my E2E channel, Employee to Entrepreneur. And in this channel, we interview people who will provide insights and tips around that transition from employee to entrepreneur, the difference in mindset, the difference in investing in yourself, and the growth of having your own business. And today I'm so excited to have our guest, Marques Ogden. He is a former NFL player. So you might have actually seen him. You might know him really well. I am so excited that you've honored us here today. But he is an inspirational keynote speaker. He's also the founder and CEO of Ogden Ventures LLC, a five-time best-selling author, Sleepless Nights, and The Success Cycle. He's a business coach and consultant. He has his own podcast, which I'm thrilled to have also been on, and the host called Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. Although his journey was totally not easy, when he retired from football, he went into construction and contracting, and he founded his own company. How cool is that at 27? Fast growth, but eventually it went bankrupt. Story of so many entrepreneurs. That's why he comes with so much insight for us. Losing almost $3 million in 90 days. Could you imagine? Most of us lose our minds if we lose 1,000 or $50 falls out of our wallet, right, out to the street, and we get home and can't find it anymore. But he pulled himself together. He's had multiple just ordinary jobs. He's hardworking, he's determined, and he teaches others how to fail forward. He's been really showcased on all the big names, USA Today, Forbes, all the other things that we know and recognize. So Marques, thank you so much for being here today, sharing your insight and your wisdom. Appreciate it. I gave a little bit of your background, but I'd love if you could just give our audience a little bit more deep of who you are. First of all, how did you even start in the whole football space? Let's go back. The ability to be an athlete is discipline and determination in itself.
So I am from Washington, D.C. I literally, like I tell everybody, I began my journey playing football when I was in high school. I didn't get a chance to play like Pop Warner or any of those things because I was such a large young child. And back then, no limit weight leagues that we have today, which I think is good because bigger kids also need to have an opportunity to play and learn the game and really see if they like it from a young age and really can get equipped to how to play the game, the rules of the game, the technique of the game. That's a big factor. But I didn't get a chance to do that. But I got a chance to watch my brother Jonathan, who also played in the National Football League. He actually was the Baltimore Ravens' first draft pick ever. And he's actually the Ravens' first ever Hall of Famer. And I got a chance to watch him through middle school into high school. So when I got to high school, I of course wanted to play. And then I was not the biggest kid. I was good. I grew after high school to be almost 6'6", 6'5" 6'6". And I got one scholarship offer to play football at the Howard University Bison, which are the 1AA program. It is in a historical Black college university. I had a lot of pride going to Howard. Our father went to Howard University. And Anita, back in the day, the Cosby Show, A Different World, Martin, everybody was like had those Howard sweatshirts on. So I got to see some phenomenal musicians in my day, Jay-Z to all these phenomenal people and all these things when I was in college. So I had a great time in college. And I played football for the Bison. And I was very fortunate through discipline, hard work, dedication to be in a position, and I was drafted into the National Football League from Howard University. And I'm still to date, Anita, the only offensive lineman ever drafted from Howard University to the National Football League.
That's an amazing story. I absolutely love that. Sometimes as you get older, I found, and I find that sometimes we forget how much we've accomplished even when we were younger. And we tend to not recognize it, partly because I think we do accomplish more things in life, or better, more often, it's often just that is our biggest accomplishment. And that's the only thing we talk about. So you get both sides of it where you forget what you've done. So I love hearing these stories. And I always encourage people go back and write down and remember the things that you accomplished when you were younger and repeat them, say them out loud. But if that's the only story you have that you're going to talk about, then let's go find you some new ones that you can also celebrate and talk about. Let's leap forward a little bit because I do have to know the backstory. How on earth, so you build this construction company, you decide to go down this space and you become this entrepreneur, which I love. You're 27 years old, and we've got people of all ages that listen to this channel. So walk me through the mindset that it takes to decide, I don't want to work for anyone else. I'm going to build my own construction company. And then we'll talk about the money part of it. But what was that mindset? Because a lot of people say this. And I think out of COVID, a lot of people are like, I'm just going to be an entrepreneur and I'm just going to do it on my own and I don't need a boss. Walk me through what your mindset was back then.
That's a great question, Anita. So when I left the National Football League, I was 27 years old, almost 28. And I really had a phenomenal experience playing in the National Football League for four teams for almost 6 years. But unfortunately for me, when I left the NFL, I didn't have a plan. I wasn't prepared. I didn't really know what to do next. I had no structure, no systems. It's so funny. I think about Ogden Ventures LLC now compared to Ogden Ventures LLC in 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, even 19, like with no bookkeeping, with no systems, with no 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, not until 2024, no CRM, no, now, not even now, all 2025, we're just about to get into automation and all these things. And so what I'm really getting at is that anybody that wants to start a business, you need to have structure, systems, and processes. I call it the logic side of your business. And so for me, when I got out of football, there was none of that. I didn't know what to do. So for about 6 months, I just took some time and I really didn't do myself any favors. I drank a lot. I partied a lot, all these things. Not the way I should be living my life, but I was young and didn't have my father who just passed away. But when I finally got out of that funk, what I realized, Anita, I didn't want to go work a job for somebody else. I had been playing football for a long time and I had to be on somebody else's clock and calendar. I had to do things when I was told to do, which is fine. But I loved the career, loved what I was doing, so I was fine with that. But I wasn't ready to go and work corporate when I didn't have any type of real knowledge or understanding of what I wanted to do. I had no knowledge. So for me, I started Caden Premier Enterprises in 2008 with the dream of just doing something for myself, starting something myself, and hopefully just making a few bucks and being able to live life on my terms. But what happened is I ended up meeting my business partner. And then from there, in 2009, 10-ish, there was a huge allotment of individuals who were really looking for minority certified companies to work for them and to come in and do the things that you need to do. And so that's what happened. And when that happened, my mentor went out of business. So I went from doing concrete to doing earthwork and site work and excavation and stone and all this stuff. And we just grew rapidly. We just exploded. I went from a small little concrete contractor doing maybe about $1 million a year to the next year doing 13 million. I think to the next year doing around 25. It exploded. It was just insane. And what I tell people is that in reality, that is not the way to grow your business. Because if you take on that type of growth and you're not funded properly, you don't have systems in place, you don't have structure in place, it will eventually implode. So to answer your question directly, I just did not want to work for somebody else when I left the NFL. I got into construction, started out very small, and I was very happy with what we were doing. But unfortunately, my bravado and my desire to want to be the biggest, the best, the most well known, it caused me to go into something I shouldn't have gone into. And the next thing you know, Anita, after having these 2 awesome years of business, that next year, going into our 6th year, that was it. Going to that fifth, 6th year. So it's 2013. I was bankrupt. I was broke, all because I was on a project and I got over leveraged. I spent about $3 million in 90 days of my own money, the company's money. I leveraged my home, all of my credit cards. I went into massive debt, finished the job, finished what I needed to do. But unfortunately, when I finished it, the client did not agree that I needed to get paid for that work. They said it was part of my contract. I know that it wasn't, and so did they. But unfortunately, I had no money left to fight them, and I ended up going bankrupt in 2013. And it's interesting, Anita. So we're on the 16th of April. Yesterday, April 15th, marks exactly 12 years ago when I moved to Raleigh and I ended up adding $400 to my name after I paid to move into our rental property. It was April 15th, 2013. I had $400 left to my name. That's it.
Wow. So there's so much I want to unpack on that whole story. So that's amazing. And look at what you've accomplished. Again, grit, determination, these are really the trademarks of being an entrepreneur. If those things in this story is scaring you, this is the whole journey of entrepreneurship, the ups and the downs. And if you are scared of that grit and determination, you can be an entrepreneur and play it super small. But if you really want to move forward along this journey and not be an employee and not have someone tell you what to do, I think those are the two takeaways that I took from Marcus's story just now. But Marcus, I just want to go back for a moment and talk about speed, because as an entrepreneur, if you're starting off new or you're starting down a new venture, people want it to be, I already want it to be there. Like we look at all these other entrepreneurs and businesses that are huge overnight successes, including things like Amazon or Microsoft, like these big Apple, you look at these big names, but they all started in their garage. They all started off like really little. So talk to me a little bit about, is speed okay? And when is it okay to go fast? Or is it never okay to go fast?
So it's interesting. Speed is acceptable. There's a quote, I think it's by Dr. Stephen Covey, if I'm not mistaken. Business moves at the speed of trust. So if you are in business and you have people that you trust, they trust you. It's okay to move expeditiously. But again, be sure when you move expeditiously that you're covering your bases. That was my problem with my construction company. I trusted the client. I moved expeditiously, but I didn't dot my I's, I didn't cross my T's, and it ended up costing me everything that I owned in the end because I was trying to move so fast. And I did, but I didn't take care of the logical parts of the business. I was moving with emotion, not logic. It's okay to move with speed when you have good emotion connection with somebody or your client or who you work with, and you also logically cover all your bases. So in reality, it's never okay to move fast if you don't trust the people that you're working with or they don't trust you, because at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, people are going to always look out for their bottom line. Always. That's just the way we are. Human nature is if it's me or you just going to go out of business, it's going to always be you. So you got to watch that. But at the end of the day, remember, you talked about Amazon and Microsoft and Apple. They all started in their garage, but they all had times of difficulty, struggle. Bill Gates got turned down by 158 investors before he found his first investor. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. Do you remember that picture of Jeff Bezos in his office with him pulling his hair out? What was it, like 1998, 1999? I had the pleasure of speaking on the same stage as Mitch Lowe, one of the co-founders of Netflix. I remember he said at the speech, it was at Bryant University back in 2018-19. He said they went to Blockbuster, said, "Hey, Blockbuster, you want to buy us for $250 million?" They said Blockbuster laughed them out of the room, said this will never work. People love coming to video stores. They love their Friday night popcorn and movies from Blockbuster. Get out of our office. 6 months later, Blockbuster's out of business, gone. And he said, at this point now, if you want to buy Netflix, you can't count that high. You can't count that high.
Right.
And so these people all have gone through hardship, struggle. Is this going to work? Is this going to make it? I look at our business, right? We have finally got good people in the seats doing what we need to do. Now, it stinks that we have great people in the seats, and now we're going through a little bit of a tough time climate-wise with like the world and all this other stuff. But this too shall pass. And so what I'm looking at and what we're looking at is setting up systems, processes, structure, flow, spreadsheets, KPIs, all these things, so we can hit and crush things once the tides turn back to normal, whatever that means, whatever that's going to be. So again, speed is not a bad thing as long as who you are speeding up doing business with looks at you as a trusted partner. Remember this saying, you have a partner slash collaborator, or you have a vendor. A partner slash collaborator will always make sure that everybody's okay. And if somebody tries to outbeat your price, they'll come to you to see if you can match. If you're just a vendor, see you later. Like if somebody gives them a cheaper price, you're out.
All right. Okay. Amazing. I have, again, so many things I want to chat about, but let's talk about this idea of people will do business with people they know and trust. This is the major underlying pinning of entrepreneurship. We're always in sales, but it's based on know and trust. But let's talk about the impact of social media, because if you go on to any TikTok, Instagram, or any kind of reel, all you ever see are these entrepreneurs that are in Bali going, I work 4 hours a week from a beach and I make $1 million and whatnot. And so the impact, I think, for people is beyond just looking at the big name brands that we just referenced and recapping their stories of how they start from, but how do we address the people that we see are killing it in social media? And we're now living to this hype because that person looks like me. That looks like someone, 6 months ago, I was nowhere, and now today, this is my life. Whereas the big names are almost like celebrity people, whereas in social media, they're like the everyday person. So how do we combat, not just as individuals, but even as you and I, as coaches and mentors to others, how do we combat that?
So what I've learned is everything that glitters isn't gold. And so many people are so quick to fall into that person has worked for a month or 2 or 3, it has now made it, quote unquote. In reality, you have no idea what that person's life is like. None. And honestly, people like that, I don't want to work with. Because if you're saying, here I was here, and look at me, where I'm at now, it's been a 12-year journey. 12 years. I filed bankruptcy when I moved to Raleigh in April of 2013, 12 years ago this month. I started my bankruptcy process in July, August of 2013. I was so broke, I couldn't pay the $3,300 payment to my attorney. I could not pay it all at once. It took me almost 6 months to pay that off to protect myself from $5.5 million of debt and 177 creditors. That's what it took. So again, what I tell people is that look at people who have really gone what I call the long way of the journey. Somebody tells me they've been doing it for 10 years, this, that. I'm like, okay, I will listen to that individual. So like Ed Miley, who has been doing it for a number of years, Lewis Howes, to Trent Shelton, to Brendan Burchard, Tim Story, like they've been doing it for a while. That means I'm going to listen to what you have to say. If you tell me you've been doing it for a couple of months or for 6 months or a year and you're having some maggots, I'm like, nope, no, thank you. Because in reality, that's not what it's going to be like. People have to understand, you said sales, right? There's 3 basic principles of sales, okay? Number 1, what is that person's challenge? Okay? What do they do and what is their challenge? All right? Number 2, what solution do you have to help alleviate their challenge? What can you bring? What can you provide? How can you help? And number 3, what are you offering? What is the price point? And how much value are you going to give to that individual over the price they're going to pay you? One of my favorite people is Bob Berg. He's a personal friend of mine who wrote the Go-Giver series. Bob's number 1, he's a good friend of mine. And Bob doesn't endorse people, but he endorses me because he's gotten to know me and he was in our community. He did an interview. He's put me on his social saying I'm a fantastic speaker. And Bob has been so successful in 35 years of speaking that Bob no longer gets on an airplane to speak. It's either virtual or he's driving distance within Florida. That's it. If it's not there, he's not doing it. And Bob's number 1 law with him and his co-author, John David Mann, the law of value, which states, give people more value than you take in payment. That is the art of sales. That's why a lot of people struggle with it because they're trying to get that quick. Sales is not designed to be transactional. Sales is designed to be relationship driven. That's what sales is. And if you look at sales as numbers, quotas, this metric, that metric, and not as people oriented, you will be Marques Ogden of 2013 September until April of 2016 when he got his first paid job as a speaker. Because that's all that I looked at speaking as. That's why I think it was free or no. Because all I cared about was the next one. Now it's about, I'll do some jobs for undervalue because I see the relationship. Like, for example, I was telling you, I got booked to speak on a NAFA cruise, National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. They're one of the largest non-for-profits for insurance and financial advisors. They are a longtime client of ours. And how did I meet them? Through my good friend, Jamie Hopkins, who used to work at another company that's at another company. And how did I meet him? Through my amazing client, Aaron Trujillo. How did I meet Aaron? By going on a podcast. I can trace about $500,000 of business in the last 5 years to that one podcast. Right. That one podcast with Mike took our brand from doing this type of work here, there, not getting to the big level to now doing big level with insurance, finance, and real estate, all because I did a podcast that I met somebody who was a great guy, and it wasn't about the sale. I didn't go onto that podcast to sell anything. So sales is about identifying what people do and what is their challenge, provide them a customized solution that you can help them do, and tell them your offer and give them value that you can bring. If they ask what's the value, give them the strategic, tactical steps. Plus, let them know that your network will be their network. That's how you move forward.
That's fantastic. Wow. That alone is amazing nuggets, because one of the biggest challenges when I was transitioning from employee to entrepreneur, I had a very great 6-figure corporate background and accidentally fell into entrepreneurship. So it's been over a decade long. It's been 12 years now in doing this, in that early stages of transition from that mindset or even knowledge and skills to being an entrepreneur and hitting six figures here was not understanding what sales was about. Because when you're an employee, even if you're in a sales role, which is a very small percentage of people in a corporate world that do sales, most people are not doing that. But even when you're learning that or have been taught that, what you do as an individual seems to always just be about the number. It seems to be about just getting the transaction done. And flipping it to, I need to build relationships with people is one of the hardest mindset shifts. And it's what I think often in my experience is what makes people fall down and going, I don't think this is going to work for me.
Yeah.
But it's because they've approached it in a completely backwards way, as opposed to doing it in a way that you've just talked about. Building a relationship, providing value, and not expecting anything in return. So you don't make that sale, you'll make another sale. It's through the person, not at the person.
And the problem is that the way that we now do it, you, myself, people who do well in business that understand how to grow a business, is that we have time. And that's the whole thing. This is why I tell people there's 5 key areas of a successful business: branding, marketing, sales, ops, finance. Finance is a big key, because here's the thing. If you make money, let's say you make $500,000 a year, that's awesome. You're in the top 1%, no doubt about it. But if you spend $501,000, what good is it? And as an entrepreneur, you have to have resources. That's how Caden went out of business. I got into something, I got into a different scope of work I was not properly funded for, I didn't have expertise in, and I was doing things in a panic. I was doing things at the wrong speed, and it was literally just setting myself up for failure. So by the time I got done with what I was doing, there was nothing left to give, and I'm out. So if you're trying to build a business, you have to remember, if you are getting into business underfunded or not having the resources or not having capital or not having a plan, please don't get into business. Because all you're going to do is get into business and you're going to start chasing things. Remember this saying, okay? Don't chase success. Have success be attracted to you. Don't chase money. Money has 4 legs. If you chase money, it will run away from you. If you do your job, if you walk a straight line, if you take care of people, and just walk nice and calm down the business lane, take a nice little stroll, money will say, oh, I'm attracted to this guy, this girl, they're doing it right. Let me go ahead and jump in their pocket before somebody else tries to get me. I'm just going to run down the street. That's what it's about. And again, I can tell you, Anita, that's why I stunk and struggle. See, I'm not gonna be like this person, like, oh, Marques, you've been doing this for 12 years. How was it? Oh, it was, when I jumped in, it was great. I was getting hired left and right. I was killing it. No. And I stunk because, Anita, I was chasing the dollar. It was running from me, and I didn't have proper funding to actually let the business take its course. When you don't have that, you then develop transactional breath. And people smell that, they're like, I'm gone.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. We've heard your story, and from being an athlete to where you are today. I want to weave in, and I would like you to share your personal development journey, the importance of investing in yourself. I'd love to hear about when you did it, that it led to huge success. And I can guess the times when you didn't have it or didn't invest in yourself or hire anyone to help you. What was the ramifications of that? So can we talk a lot about your personal perspective on investing in yourself? What does that look like and why it's so important?
So this binder that sits on my desk, okay? NAPSA, National Athletic Professional Success Academy Intensive Experience. My coach is Mr. Brad Mitchell. In 2018, January, one of my mentors, Mr. Andre Collins, who was a phenomenal football player in the National Football League, approached me. He said, Marques, you are doing okay as a speaker. You're doing okay, but you're not great. And I said, what do you mean, Andre? You're doing well, but you're not great. You don't have the ability to be able to talk a lot of the lingo, the language. You know it, but you don't speak it. There's a program that's coming up in March at Penn State, NAPSA. We will pay for it for you. We will send you there. It's 5 days. Brad Mitchell and his staff handpicked 7 people to go to this program. And you were one of the ones they picked, one of the first ones they picked. And I said, Andre, I appreciate it. I don't need to go. And I said, Marques, I'm going to ask you one more time. If you go and do well, I'll hire you to speak for me in Miami. But you have to go and give it your all. I said, I'll go. And before that, I had only had 2 paid speaking jobs. That's it. Miller Mock and relationship driven with the Buffalo Bills through my great friend, still one of my best friends today, Marlon Kerner. Going to Penn State, going to NAPSA, I learned how to take the lingo from football, the lingo from my past business with Caden, from my life, my experiences, and how to connect with people to relate to them in a way that they could understand. And in a way that comes across as a person of value, not a person looking to take from them. And once I learned that from Brad, from NAPSA, then I also went to be part of Mel Robbins' audiobook, Kick Ass with Mel. And I learned from Mel how to stop trying to be motivational with just stories of things that don't really matter, like just basic football stories, stuff like that, but no one cares about that. And be inspirational and give more stories around the business, the failure, the ups, the downs, the swings, all this stuff. Once I learned that from Brad Mitchell and from Mel Robbins, that's when our career started to skyrocket at that point. It still took time, but that was the beginning of us turning the corner. And I tell people, you'll never make a bad investment. It will never be an expense investing in yourself. If you don't invest in yourself and get the right team, the right people, you're only going to continue just to tread water. There's a saying that I live by. The human mind can do a lot of things, but it can't do everything. And this is why people in business today struggle, because I'm very fortunate doing a lot of work in insurance right now. A lot of work. I got to go to Vegas for a job. We're talking about how to build confidence in your offer to grow your business. And I looked at our PowerPoint around how to overcome objections, how to talk the lingo. And it's so interesting. It's the same basic things I learned in football. But a lot of times, because people get so focused on trying to grow their business through the sale, they're not looking at, how do I build a relationship? How do I overcome objections? How do I actively listen? How do I position myself to be different than others, right? What is my offer? Speak in a tone or speak in lingo that makes people feel, okay, or you can say this, hey, buy this policy from me. What? How about you say, you know what? This policy will help to protect your family in the horrible event if something happens unexpectedly. You want to be prepared. What sounds better? So the second one had emotion with the logic. And that's the difference, right? I learned how to have emotion and logic and all these things in business. And of course, you're not going to get every job. It's all about the right opportunity, the right value, the right price point, the right timing. But this is what it comes down to, actually doing what we call high revenue generating activities. And see, if you're a solopreneur or a entrepreneur who doesn't have help and you don't get some of those things done, then you're going to struggle. And you know how I know? Because I struggled.
Right.
I struggled immensely trying to get that going. So again, it's funny. I'll tell you this and I'll go from here. 5 things that Aristotle told Alexander the Great would make him a great leader that others want to follow. And that's exactly what sales is. People want to follow you and work with you because they see you as a great person. Character, emotion, reason, or you can call that logic, metaphors, be concise. Aristotle made this known in that regard. And that was that.
5 things. Perfect. That's great. Let's go back to the moment when you said, no, I don't want to go to Penn State. Why did you say no? What was going on in your head that you thought, did you think, I already know everything. I'm already great at this. What was it that made you say no? Because I think a lot of people in their entrepreneurial journey say, I know it, I'm good, I'm already doing, like, why do I need to go and do any more training? Why do I need to spend $10,000 on a coach? Why do I need to invest? This program was free for you. Imagine if you had to pay for it.
25 grand cost.
Right. Would you have still said yes if it was you had to pay out of your pocket? But I really want to go back to you said no, and it was free.
Because my ego got the best of me. And see, this is why today, never, ever again will my ego ever get in the way. I was, like you said, right, Anita? I know it all. I'm a great speaker. I've done this. I've done that. I had a couple of paid jobs. But again, ego, exaggerated, glorified opinions. I was lying to myself about how good I actually was. Because I was good, but I wasn't really that good. I always was chasing the glory, because I'm a former NFL athlete. I'm this, me. Opinions. We have an event. You want to talk about this? Okay, how about I bring this in? That has nothing to do with what you're going to talk about. How about that? That's just my own agenda. So the ego got so big. And God bless Andre Collins for not giving up on me and giving me the opportunity by pushing me to do something that I didn't want to do. And that's a big factor because a lot of times, like I tell people, one of the 5 keys to becoming a visionary leader or a great CEO is building your accountability circle. You're building your accountability CEO circle. And Andre Collins is definitely in there still to this day. Because without him, I don't go to NAPSA. Without NAPSA, where we are today, there's absolutely no way in the world, or no how, there's no way, no how, we are where we are without Brad Mitchell, NAPSA, and that program.
Yeah, you just made such a huge point on ego. We just tend to know, and I do very much understand that was a lot of me. When I have an MBA, I had a great corporate position, I did really well. So when I joined my entrepreneurial venture and I started to move into this space, I'm like, I can do it. Mm-hmm. I don't really need this. Okay, fine. I'll do some reading. I'll do the training. I'll do it. And I'm like, nothing was hitting. Like this notion of leaving 6 figures and hitting 6-figure entrepreneurship to me was like, I could do it. Like, why is this not happening? And it was 100% of an ego. That I figure that everything that I've already been successful at and I can do is just, I could just do it without knowing the right mindset and the right skills needed to move into a new area. We don't know, even though we have all of those experiences, which are great, but it's a different mindset. And a lot of it, correct, is ego. And I love what you said about, I read somewhere, and I believe it was Robert Kiyosaki, but having a red team. And I think it was that he coined that term. And the idea is that you have the best people in your inner circle, your team of people that help guide you. And I don't mean this in a mastermind way. I'm really talking about what you were talking about of that inner CEO, whether it's for the finance piece, the logic piece, your legal, your accounting, the advisors, your coach, somebody who's going to knock your ego down. Talk to us a little bit about your red team, your team that keeps your business now going. And it sounds like you really figured that out much later in your 12-year journey.
Yeah, it took time. I've got a great finance person. I've got a great accountant that I work with, a great bookkeeper. I go through the process of making sure that I understand where they're coming from, what they need from me. And yeah, without a team that's going to guide you, everybody on your team needs to be smarter than you in the area. Do I have a little bit of knowledge of finance? Of course, I do have a degree in finance. But Craig Decker, my finance guy, he's the guy. I know a little bit about accounting, very little, but Tom Alfieri is an accountant specialist. Although that's what he does. Bookkeeping, the same with Jamie. Same thing with our team. Like, I don't know how to do PowerPoints or website or all these things or automation or outreach or use a CRM effectively. I don't have any of those skills, but the team that I have, people in each area, they do. And this is what I'm talking about. If you're listening to this and you're a solo smallpreneur, I understand. I've been there. Try to find somebody that can help be a jack of all trades, master of some. And if you can't pay them, trade with them. Find something that you have that they want and do a trade. There's ways to do this other than just putting cash out of your pocket, but you have to get creative. You got to think. It's not going to be, oh, I can pay. If you don't have that, you can't. That's not an option. But just because one thing is not an option doesn't mean there's not other ways of getting things done. You got to get innovative. You got to get creative. Because again, if you're a solopreneur, I'm going to congratulate you for continuing to work and move through what you're doing. But I feel, and I could be wrong, if you really want to scale and grow, you need some assistance. And again, just because you don't have any capital doesn't mean you don't have any assets. Listen to that. Just because you don't have any capital doesn't mean you don't have any assets. You have other assets you can pay with other than cash or a credit card or a wire, but you just got to find it. You just got to be willing to say, you know what? I know this trade will pay off in the long run. Let's get in there. Let's get it done. And that way everybody comes out a winner.
Oh my God, what a fantastic nugget. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And that, again, remember everyone, this is like a very different style of thinking than employee. We don't usually do that. Sometimes it happens at the water cooler where you might, oh, like, okay, I'll do this. But this is at a level just completely different than being an employee. It is really looking how to think outside of the box. And I believe that's the whole notion of entrepreneurship, is being able to really see outside of the box. It's not for everyone. We talked about this. It's not for everyone. And for some people, you can try it and go, you know what? I really do being an employee. Amazing. We need people who love being employees. We need people to stay as employees. But for those of you that actually say, I'm done with that, like Marques, who say, I'm done. I don't want to have a boss. I want to have my own time freedom. I want to be able to have my own growth. This is amazing. So as we're wrapping up, just one last, as you look at your journey, what would you say are your top 3 biggest learnings that you've had in your life? What would you say that if you were left with one last few minutes of time and you had to leave on at your funeral a whiteboard with 3 learnings, what would you want that to be passed on?
The first thing I will say is never quit on yourself. I learned that when I was 15, when I almost quit the football team in high school, and my dad got me to shape up and got me to get my act together. And I never, ever since that day, I never quit on football again. I never quit on myself again. So that's number 1, never quit. Number 2 is never allow your ego to get bigger than the good part of your soul. And that's how I ended up losing my construction company, my assets, my home, my money, my self-respect, a lot of friends. And I left Baltimore like a thief in the night because I just allowed my ego to really, really take me down to the depths of hell. And the third thing, this is a big one. Rock bottom is the moment that you can rebuild your life. And the quote is exactly this. Rock bottom is the moment that I rebuilt my life. J.K. Rowling, who is the writer of the Harry Potter series. Rock bottom is not a place you want to be. I can't even sit there. I'm not even going to say that. Nobody wants to be there. But when you hit rock bottom, the only place you can go is up. That's it. But here's the catch. In order to get out of rock bottom, in order to move from victim to victor, you can't acknowledge it. You can't just be aware of it. You can't just say, oh, I know this, I'm cognizant of this. You have to accept it, which means you take personal responsibility for how your life has been and how you got there. Once you accept it, now you can move. If you don't accept it, you're always going to be in the shadows lurking, looking for somebody to bail you out because you constantly are looking to put the blame on somebody else. So those are three things. Never quit, never let your ego get bigger than a good part of your soul. And if you ever hit rock bottom, which a lot of us have, it's not the end. Rock bottom is the moment to rebuild your life. So when you look at those three things, you can really move and achieve whatever your heart desires.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Marques. And for those of you that want to listen to Marcus's podcast, which by the way is amazing, please follow him on his channel. And in the notes section, you'll get all the information on how to get in touch with Marques and learn about his amazing program and all the things that he does to help the community. So Marques, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys will watch this again and take nuggets, and please share it with your other friends because there were so many amazing nuggets here. Thanks again.
Thanks for watching. Hopefully you were inspired just as I was by our amazing guest. Please subscribe because every week we will be interviewing someone else who's made that transition from employee to entrepreneur. In the comments, please share the one nugget that you heard that will change your business as well.